Hello and welcome to the Sias Plessis show. Thank you very much to everyone who has liked and subscribed on YouTube. We're also on Spotify and on iTunes. Also to Betway for powering the show. Check out betway.co.za as well as Betway Scores, the app. There's so many promotions going on. Betway Premiership. You don't want to miss any of that action. Now, it brings me great pleasure. And Ray was particularly excited about the guest that was coming in today. She is a legend. Yes, legend. I know we throw the word legend around, but Cindy Poluta, you've been a phenomenal broadcaster for so many years. Thanks for making time and coming in, and thanks for singing on radio in the mornings.
Yeah, look, legend. I have to have people who are in the industry tell me I'm a legend for me to believe it, right?
You are, absolutely.
Because I'm just one of those, I just go to work, I read the sports, and I go home type people.
But you've done it so well for so long. And considering that it started with you and me at 702.
Right.
You were there before me doing traffic.
So what year did you come to 702?
Because you started 1950.
You started there on weekends, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
That was about 2003.
Okay, so I had already been at Prime Media then for about 6 years.
Yeah.
Because so many people go, what? Like you started Prime Media when? How? And then they try to calculate how old I am, right? So I started in 97, which was my first year out of school. So I'll do the maths for everybody that's watching. I'm 45. I really don't care, okay? And you would have been there for 6 years already when I was there. But I think I was at 947.
So you would have been in, 97 you said, right?
And if you started
2003, so you...
6 years,
6 years.
My maths is good, eh?
Perfect. Perfect. So it's been a while, and then you have transformed, because I remember a little while ago you were doubting where you were in the broadcasting career, right?
So I think it happens with a lot of people. You start to just reach a slump in your career, regardless of how long you've been in it. And you start to question, well, for me personally, like, what is the purpose? Am I giving back? Like, what is going on? And it's strange because in about 2017, I said to my husband, I'm done. But I think I've said I'm done quite a few times. It just depends on which day of the week you catch me and how much coffee I've had and if the kids are behaving and if things are looking good. But I've said I'm done quite a few times. And in 2017, I genuinely meant it. So by being done, it just means like you're not passionate about it anymore. You wake up in the morning writing like another score about something, just going, and this person scored and that person did this and there was a red card. I was struggling to find my passion for it, right? And so 2017, I wasn't a character on a show. I was just, the person who came in, read the sport, left the studio. And I said to my husband, right, I'm giving myself this year to try find like what's going on. And then 702 changed their breakfast show host to the now late Olani Gwala. And 947 changed to Anele, which became Anele and the Club. And that skyrocketed straight away. And my husband went, so we're not. So this is not the last year. So we're going up again. And I'm like, yeah, I guess this is it, And I never thought, because I think when you and I got into the industry, and maybe you were like me, we grew up on 5FM, and the guys were in their 30s, and that to us seemed old, right?
It did.
So to be 45 on quite a hip and current show, you kind of go, really?
But I think you're also the voice of reason. But you also bring a fun side, I just love that you always have an opinion on something.
Oh, gosh. My husband does not like that I have an opinion on things and everything. So I think so when I first got into the industry, well, not first got into the industry, but when I first decided I wanted to do sport on the weekends, right? Ravi Naidu was the station manager at the time. I was 20, turning 21, and couldn't understand why he just didn't put me on radio. When you're in your early 20s.
You're bulletproof.
You know it all.
Absolutely.
Okay, like, why won't they put me on the radio? I'm damn amazing.
I'm a star.
I'm like brilliant. I know everything. Okay. And bless him, Simon Parkinson was doing the weekend show at the time. And I could just see him every time like, no, that was good. And he would give me feedback because he had done breakfast radio on Zim for a very long time. And I always just thought like, jeepers, but I know it all. And now that I'm where I am in my career, and you've got the youngsters coming through. I'm that old person that goes, you're not ready. You need to wait. And bless him, Ravi was like, you just need time. You need practice. You'll get there. So that was also like a slow introduction on what was really, like most people started in campus radio.
Yeah.
I was straight on commercial.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
who does
you're
that?
a gangster like that, straight in. Why sport? I mean, was it something that was in your household? I mean, I know you're a sports fan. I always see you on X, and it's always scores and things happening, TikTok, you name it. But sport, what drew you to sport? Was it something that was in your family?
So yeah, I get this question a lot because I think it's still an anomaly for a woman my age.
You're a
know
pioneer to a
about,
certain extent.
Right? So a lot of men my age like to ask me that question because they seem a bit like surprised by it. And for me, it never was a strange thing to know about sport. So to answer your question, I grew up in a sporting household where I've got 2 older brothers. My mom had 3 brothers, so she was already on the sporting front there when playing whatever they did at school. Mm-hmm. And then my dad was a part owner of a small football club called Forest FC back in the day. There were about 8 or 10 of them that owned it, etc.
How cool is that?
Well, I didn't know. I was young.
Yeah.
The coolest part was riding in the beer boxes down the embankment on the soccer match. But our weekends were spent doing that, and then obviously watching a lot of football. Football was really big. And then my brothers playing hockey, cricket, rugby at school. And then I got into cricket scoring. Because at our school, there was no swimming pool. So there wasn't anything for girls to do in summer. You had to, and I was so lazy, you had to, if you wanted to do swimming, train at the primary school, which meant early morning and then walk a kilometer to the high school. And I was like, nah. So I took up cricket scoring, and that's where I actually got to really know the rules and regulations. And I did it kind of to meet boys from other schools. But my brother was in first team, so then I would score while he was playing. So it was like a win-win.
Did you point out when he, didn't do well? And when
oh my gosh! So his favorite story, his favorite story is he's playing first team in matric. He's a really good bowler, fielder, etc. And I think it was somewhere there in Randburg, and it was a night game, and there was a catch coming, and I was I was obviously scoring, and he dropped it. I went, "Oh, you idiot!" And he looked at me because obviously you can hear everything, right? He was like, "Oh." And then the very next ball, he caught the guy. And I was like, "You see?" And he says to this day, he still remembers me shouting, "You idiot," across the whole field. It's very bad.
No temptation to go and score for the Lions?
I did, actually.
Okay.
I was like, at one point, I was like, "Oh, I'd really love to go score at the Lions." But, okay, I'm old enough to have... I'm old enough to be around before the internet was invented. So it wasn't like I could just email somebody at the Lions and be like, "Hey, how do I go about this?" You'd literally have to pick up the phone, and I didn't know where to start. Okay. But I always was like, "Oh, I would love that gig, stand there." And you're like, I even had little duck stickers.
Oh, brilliant.
If somebody went for a duck, you get a duck sticker in the book, made it a big thing.
I saw the other day you were at the Lions. I think their season launch was happening.
Yeah.
You posted that picture going down the tunnel. I mean, do you get too much sport these days? I know with the Anele in the club, you guys you've been all over the world with the show. It's such a huge success. But is it a chance for you to get to games at least and enjoy it as a fan and not be thinking what am I going to put in my sports report tomorrow morning?
Right. So you and I worked at Supersport for a long time together, right? We worked on Blitz. And you'll be able to tell me as well how long it took you to eventually be able to watch sport without going, "Okay, I need at 23:17 Ryan Giggs touched the ball, and then at 43 David Beckham curled it."
Exactly
and then exactly. And it takes a long time to get your mind out of it. I think you only really get that from TV.
Yeah.
You don't really get that from radio. But at the end of a game, I have already written my script for the next day or the Monday in my head.
Yeah.
The Springboks put in an average performance, or Rasmus won't be pleased by. You can already write it in your head, right?
Absolutely.
I think there was a game recently, the Springboks played New Zealand. I was like, they're going to have a field day with the reffing. There was a try that was just before the line and it was allowed, etc. True's Bob, the next morning, all the headlines in the New Zealand media. And I was just screenshotting it and sending it to my friends who had been watching with and going, "Yeah, they're so predictable." So I think after years, it comes like that.
Yeah.
Right? But I can go down to the games if I want.
Sure.
I love going to watch cricket at the Wanderers.
Yeah.
When you drive on the highway and those spotlights are on at night, I actually get goosebumps.
FOMO.
And my husband's not a cricket fan, right? And one of my dreams was to get married at the Wanderers in the middle of the pitch.
Okay.
I didn't tell him.
Okay. Well, you can renew the vows, surely.
Oh, no. He'll definitely say no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
He's a motorsport fan of note, that I know.
So he's a MotoGP fan,
Yeah.
the bikes. And that's how I got into it. And it's actually preferred way more to Formula One because it's 20-something laps as opposed to 70-something laps. And it's just a little guy on his bike, hey? There's no button to push, there's nothing. And he's just going 310, trying to overtake somebody. I'm like, what is going on?
So obviously with Brad Binder doing his thing now, I mean, there's
Yeah.
even a vested interest. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen your husband going to these events when Brad was still accessible.
Yes.
He's not so accessible anymore.
No, he's not.
But I sort of see that passion, and you can hear it when you're talking about it on
Yeah,
air, that
yeah.
there's a passion for sport. And I think that's key when you, after so many years doing the sport, to keep that passion going.
Well, I think it's important for MotoGP that people actually don't realize, and I often have to explain it, and they go, oh, really? Is that how it works? MotoGP is the Formula One of bikes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Superbikes, people are like, but it's
But
not.
superbikes, it's not. Because superbikes, you can walk into the store and you can buy that bike.
That's true.
MotoGP is like a Formula One car.
Absolutely.
Now, to have a South African competing at that level, if we had a South African in Formula One every weekend, people would be going mad. So it's so lovely, like you say, to be able to have
Absolutely.
somebody to watch. In terms of passion for sport, how do you feel about sport?
Look, I think it's just been a part of my life for so long, and people don't understand that I would sometimes rather sit at home and watch a test match because I want the replays, I want the analysis. You know, I'm missing out on the Sias, and people are like, "You're mad. You should be at the box wearing your green and gold." But I got to a point where I've covered that, you know, in my life, and I've been part of that sort of thing. So for me now, it's a lot more about taking in the experience and seeing the analysis. But there is still times, like with the Betway SA20 stuff, it's been incredible to just watch cricket from a different point of view. And there I felt like I want to be at the games, attending those sort of things. So, but sport is passion. Sport is emotion. Sport is something that everyone in this country has in common on some level. If it's a family member, a friend, a child, a grandparent, whatever it is, sport literally brings us together. So,
Yeah.
And also when you are sitting behind that mic in the morning, you sometimes like don't realize that you can make someone's day with your comment, right?
No, I know.
You know,
I
and you do
write
it very well.
strategically. I'm like, oh, I'm going to piss this person. Can I say that? I'm going to piss this person off today by saying this. And I love to write it like, let's say, for example, okay, I'll take a dig at you because you support Newcastle.
Yeah.
I love to say, like, let's say you lose to Man City or whatever, and it's like 3-0. I'll say Man City thrash Newcastle because I know somewhere Sias is driving and he's like, 3-0 is not a thrashing, Cindy.
We've all had that though, right? Have you? I mean, you must have had some incredible people reach out after a bulletin. I mean, I remember when I mispronounced someone's name back in the day. I think it was Kankowski. And
Oh,
I
wow.
kept saying Kankowski.
Okay.
And it was like, and then people got all upset about it. And and that was when X was just sort of
Yeah.
like, and people were jumping on it. And I used to take that on board, but now it's like,
So
seriously.
I don't know if society's changed or if social media has changed. So back in the day when Twitter first started and you tweeted anything and it was wrong, they would drag
Yeah.
you. They would be like, what do you know? How can you say you're a person in sport if you didn't even know? And it was so ugly. The other day I made like a mistake on air and I realized afterwards, I was like, oh, jeepers, I said this instead of that. And I went straight away to go look at Twitter and there was nothing. And I was like, sure. I don't know if people are actually using it less or if they're actually, I think through COVID, it taught people that broadcasters are human because we were broadcasting from home and it was
Absolutely.
lived experience and everybody's kind of human. And I think it's allowed us to make mistakes and not be absolutely like punished forever and sent to the barren desert of never to broadcast again land. You
There
know?
is a place like that.
There
Some
is.
people are
It's
there.
called cancel.
Currently.
It's called the cancel zone. It's there.
But I think for me, what's really cool and on my morning commute these mornings, listening to you guys, just the way you interact. I mean, I was fortunate to fill in for you a couple months back, and
They loved it.
my word, how busy that show is. I mean, how do you find, I suppose it's as someone who's experienced, you kind of find where you fit into the mix, right? You find your place and there's a timing thing because there's so much happening in that show.
Are you basically asking us if the whole thing's scripted?
No, I know how many ads you guys run.
So you're
Nothing
asking,
is scripted on that show.
so you're asking how does Anele and the club manage to sound so natural when there's so much commercial stuff going on?
Absolutely. I mean, where do you fit time in for personality, but yet you find a way?
Because
And you stand out. I mean, Anele is
the star.
staring, but you find ways of jumping in. And I mean, that whole team, the way you bounce off each other, I can hear someone who's been on a similar team in the past that there's chemistry. It just works.
Well, everybody, I think what makes Anele and the club totally unique is that nobody feels they need to be a star on the day. Everybody knows their role. Nobody has an ego. Nobody cares if Tembakile is funnier than Frankie today and Frankie's funnier than Cindy and I need to shine and I need to have the last line. And I think so many, you listen to other shows and people are so busy trying to be something else or trying to get the last line that they're actually not paying attention to what is actually funny. Frankie might crack a joke and we all pack out laughing and I might have had an even funnier one to say after that, but it's done.
Yeah.
I don't need to say it. When the mics go off, I'll go, oh, I was going to say this, and then we all laugh.
Yeah.
I don't, none of us are trying to prove ourselves. And I think that comes from all of us having years and years and years and years of experience. Nobody's trying to prove themselves. I think we all just feel so secure within the team, which is so important. Everybody just feels so natural.
Yeah.
And we actually genuinely all get along.
And it comes across. You can hear it. I mean, listening to shows, you kind of have a different ear to your normal listener.
Yeah.
And that comes with being in the industry for, a period of time. But over time, you can see radio has changed. And
It has.
there are people that still bash radio at the moment.
I don't know why. Why?
I don't know why. I mean, obviously,
Oh, they love to say, I don't listen.
it might be that.
So like people go, oh, I don't listen. I listen. People love to tell you, I listen to podcasts. No offense to this one. Sorry, I've just realized the irony of that. You might want to cut out that part. The irony of people going, oh, I don't listen to radio in the morning. I listen to podcasts. Okay, yeah. You guys can listen to the Sias to Plessis podcast. I'll forgive you.
Thanks for the endorsement. That's a reel, by the way. The thing is, I think people have, when it comes to radio, someone explained it to me the other day. It's like someone's day starts off. Let's say it starts at 6 when the shows start, and there's a feature at 6. It might be a song or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Or a news bulletin. And then they gauge on if they're going to be on time for work or school or whatever
100%.
by the features on the clock.
100%.
Whatever it was, phone calls on 5 or whatever it was. You have that thing. And at the moment, I think it's the school top 5 or 5 songs that I know.
My school top
if
5.
I'm not listening to that by a certain point or certain off-ramp,
I'm late.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
But I also think people are so fiercely loyal to radio hosts, teams, that when that team goes away, they it almost become bitter until they find their next team. And then they're fiercely loyal to that team, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you kind of find through the years with radio? Because there are a lot of people who still go, no, I listen to podcasts or audiobooks or just music or radio is rubbish. But radio for me is still a special place in my heart.
I think as humans, we don't like change. I think that's what that comes down to, right? So in the beginning, Anele and the club was too loud. It was too this, it was too that. And granted, we were. I mean, and we were like, I think we went and listened back to a couple of our opening links the other day. And we all cringed. We were like, ew. And everybody sounded younger because I think it was 2017. So that's 7 years ago, right?
Exactly.
We've been doing it for 7 years. So everybody sounded raw. And that took time to build everybody together. And fans are fiercely loyal.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got fans that will tell us what we said 5-6 years ago. Oh, remember the time? And you're like, I don't remember the time, but I'm glad it stuck with you. But it's also beautiful because radio has an ability to really connect people. And I think what makes Anele and the club so special is that we are all authentic. Everybody is genuine. Like if we're telling you a story about something that has happened, it has happened to us. We're not faking it.
Yeah.
And I think the listeners can hear that and they can sense it and they can feel it. And the other thing as well is we know when to be serious. because we're actually all adults in our 40s, except Tembakile. But
20.
he's our child. I think he's 30. But we're all adults. So we've all had lived experience.
Yeah.
We've all lost parents. We all, Anele and I are raising kids. Like, it's everyday life. We pay our bills. The bill's too high, the bill's this, the bill's that. Or we're living an everyday Joburg existence. And if we just brush over that and pretend it's not happening, then it loses its genuineness.
Yeah.
We really have the ability to, you can have a moment on air where somebody's won 25,000 Rand and then they just burst into tears and it turns into a situation where it starts to really become a deep conversation about something to them. And at the maturity to be able to, reach into that moment and allow the person to have that moment and the experience that comes with that team, I think is what makes us different to others.
On your Instagram, I see you got mom of two and passionate about broadcasting. How has that changed you, Cindy? Because you can say what you want. When your child arrives in this world, your mindset completely changes. Even if you don't want it to change, you become a protector, right? And I suppose to a certain extent it does have an effect on how you conduct yourself going forward.
Sure.
Because I'm sure the girls listen every morning.
They do. They do.
Mom, what did you say?
No, it's a very short school drive, thank goodness for them. And I'm like, sometimes look at the clock and I'm like, okay, don't say this then. But their school friends tell them.
But that is my point, right?
Right? They get to school and they'll be like, your mom said this or your mom said that. So I'm very aware. I'm probably more aware of what I say now. Whereas before I would just be flippant and be like, oh, this or that. But I know that what I say could have an effect on them and my husband. I mean, it's a team.
He's a businessman.
It's a team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
And being a mom, I think what I'm loving is my parents never, apart from the odd Sunday club football, but they never took me to big sporting matches. And I'm loving that they like to go now. So they love to go to cricket. Then we'll go because I'm like, oh, there's cricket at the Wanderers. Should we go? Because now I've got somebody to go with. I'm like, this is so exciting. I've got my own little friends to go with. And we sit there, and they're teenagers. So they're at that age where they're going to the cricket to half watch that and half see who's there, and you relive that part of your youth through them. Being a mom, and particularly being a woman in sport, and I think I said to somebody today, I hate that title. I hate being women in sport. Like, why haven't we moved on from women in sport? But I'm also glad we haven't moved on from women in sport because I use it because I've got two daughters as an opportunity to say to them, in my early 20s, nobody thought I knew anything about sport. I've always had to prove myself, and then working as well. They see me waking up early every morning. I'm not there. I do a school run maybe twice a year on each of their birthdays. I'll make sure I'm home. But they see how hard it is to wake up and go to work and have my own money, which I think is so important, earn my own money. And then they also, because they're on social media as well, right? They see the comments under posts and they'll say to me, how could somebody comment that on your thing? And I go, you see, not everybody's kind.
Yeah.
Not everybody's nice. So you've got to think nicely when you comment on some random person's Instagram.
Yeah.
That person's human, like your mom. That person's reading that comment like your mom. And it's just, they've got a cool life though. I mean, they've got a mom who takes them to some really cool gigs. They'll say, they call it a soft life now. It's like, soft life, it's nice. But it really has changed. And I think a very dynamic, and I don't take it for granted, a very dynamic and unique opportunity to teach them about the various aspects. Women working, women in a man's industry, being a mom, getting online hate. Unfortunately, use everything as a teachable moment, which is met with a lot of eye rolling. I go, can we just talk? And they're like, I don't want to talk. I just want to tell you my story without you telling me something. Comes back to that opinion thing.
Yeah.
You know what you were saying to me?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I have to explain to them, I work on a radio station and people are always asking me for my opinion. So I always just think it's natural to give it, right? But yeah.
In just touching on that topic, women in sport, I agree with you. It should just be
women
in sport or just in sport. We're all in something, right?
Right.
If you look around, there's some incredible broadcasters that are out there, especially in the South African landscape. But do you feel like more can be done? We should have more women out there just in terms of, being active in sport, because I think for me, it's not a male industry anymore. In that, I think that is changing, that sort of thought process. We're seeing women commentating on football games, on rugby, even the NFL the other night. There was someone commentating, and I was, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's great to see that there is steps being made.
At first you go, don't you? Like at first you're like,
enough.
oh,
As an
but it's
anchor
natural, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody goes, what? There's
Because
a woman.
we've been conditioned to a male voice.
There's a woman, right? I've always said that the only way it'll change is once people have daughters and their daughters try to find work. And it'll only change once those daughters want to go into a sporting field or a sporting industry. And then they're met by men who won't allow them in. And only when that changes, I feel like that's the dynamic. So, I mean, you as a dad, imagine if you had a daughter and she came home and she said, well, I didn't get the job because I'm a woman. You'd be so angry. You'd be like, that's not fair, right? There are some phenomenal broadcasters around us. And I think when we were at SuperSport, you didn't really see women sitting on a panel. Like, I think maybe Tinky Pringle was there, but she wasn't there much longer. Leanne Paulick used to do quite a lot. And it was me, but I was never like set on a panel.
Sure.
Like now you see Matsadiso doing the rugby. Yeah. And it's just fantastic. In fact, when she didn't do this recent series now, I was like messaging. I'm like, hey girl, is everything okay? And I love that. And then you got people like Natalie Germanis, who's doing so much great cricket commentary.
Incredible.
And yeah, there really are some great women coming through.
Because you were a pioneer. And I'm interrupting you, but
I think there's a few of us.
No, sure, but you're one of the pioneers, right? Especially in sport.
I am. And so when people say, I'm interested in sport, and then I say, what sport? And then they say, well, I want to do sport on radio. And then I go, okay, well, then you have to be into all sport.
Yeah.
You can't just be into PSL. You can't just be into rugby or cricket or whatever. You have to know all of it. And I think that's the difference between us and others. Well, myself and others. I do sometimes get irritated when I watch some of these shows and there's people presenting, men or women, and they don't know what they're talking about. Don't you get bugged?
No, absolutely. Sometimes just put on mute and wait till the game kicks off.
Well, you sit there and you're like, why are they asking that? Like, what are they doing? Like, why are these people on camera? What are they doing? How did this person get employed? And then I realized we're those old grouchy people.
Absolutely.
Remember when we came into SuperSport and we were young? And then the old grouchy people used to be like, oh, why
they don't really, who are
Sias
these people?
Cindy, who are these people? We are those grouchy people.
We
now.
are. And I think that's a natural progression because, and often I've said it, we like to work towards a standard because of how we've been trained in the industry, right? Mm-hmm. Like you were a rock star and went straight into commercial radio. I came through the campus, and a lot of successful Anele's come through the campus thing where you learn the art of broadcasting.
Yeah.
And the hard way, sometimes it's through mistakes, getting the wrong person's name on the phone when you were told it was someone else, things like that. You then learn from your mistakes and you set a certain standard for yourself.
Yeah.
And you get accustomed to that. I think when you start seeing people who aren't prepared or don't know what they're talking about or mispronounce names, you kind of question like, why
What's
is it
become
so
of the industry?
That too. But why is it so hard for you not to get that? Or why are you getting it wrong? So I think we listen with a different ear because we've earned that right in a way. It doesn't mean we can be grouchy and crotchety old people, but I think we've worked hard to get our standard to where it should be. And I think the rest of the field should follow.
Okay, answer me this. Did you get into sports broadcasting because you liked sport? Or did you get into sports broadcasting because you wanted to be famous?
Excellent question. Because I liked sports.
Because that's the difference
and
now.
I can genuinely say that because today we're seeing the sort of influencer wanting to be a broadcaster.
That's it.
And people trying to get into TV radio because they want to have 100,000 followers on whatever platform and be recognized and be famous.
Right.
But you're spot on. Getting in for sport is the right reason. At the end of the day, it's not the most glamorous gig. Let's be honest, right?
We've unpacked this a few
100%.
times.
Waking up at whatever time and if you're having a crap day, had a crap night's sleep or whatever it is, you have to turn it on.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think like, oh, it's great. You're covering games. You're out there interviewing all these amazing people. But like you're sacrificing at the same time, right?
A lot.
And I know sounds like a, oh, woe is me sort of thing, but it's the truth because people see your life through your Instagram or your TikTok and they go, that's an amazing life. And yes, it is. But there's also middle of winter, it's -2 degrees and you're like, oh man, I have to get up and, but once you're in the studio, I suppose it all comes to life, doesn't it?
I just remind myself that, and more so lately, it's going to come to an end. It's got to come to an end.
And it goes quickly.
And it goes quickly. And I'm going to look back and I'm going to go, why didn't I appreciate it more? And it is hard. And people go, oh, I don't know how you do it. Well, you just do it.
It's a thing.
You do it because actually at the end of the day, I can't imagine myself enjoying any other job as much as I'm currently enjoying this one now. And that's why I'll often say to people, I think once Anele and the club is done, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I will maybe close the chapter. I say that, but then they'll phone me and say, can you fill in on Thursday? I'll be like, yes, of course I can, because I love radio.
When does I get there?
But the routine of it and the breakfast part of it.
And it's your friends.
Right.
It's incredible connections you make.
Maybe you felt the same thing after Gareth Cliff, is that once the show wraps, like I'm never going to be able, you're chasing the dragon. You're never going to have that high again.
I often say to people who ask me, what was it like to be on radio? I said it is like a drug that is unlike any other because it is this natural high. And as soon as the show ends, you've literally come down because the show is over. It's done. That energy level's depleted, And each time that mic turns on, you're going, that drug kicks in.
Yeah.
And it's hard to kick that drug. And for a lot of people, there was someone I sort of been mentoring and
that's cool.
They recently, their contract came to an end on a radio station.
Okay.
And it wasn't renewed because they wanted to chase another opportunity. That opportunity didn't work.
Oh.
And they went back to freelance radio, which is tough. And they couldn't give that person a full-time contract, even though most contracts in radio are freelance. And he said that he felt so depressed when he heard the show that to the point where he didn't want to listen to the show anymore.
Yeah.
So it is a
drug.
No,
I won't listen to anyone else.
No, you can't. It's so tough. It's so tough. And then when you change to another host, which you have done in the past, and you don't quite have that same connection, it's tough.
Yeah.
To be that same person, even though you weren't putting on a character, that was you.
So I think this is the first time I have felt connected in a show. Ever.
And not just someone who pops in, does a bulletin and buggers off.
Exactly, right? So for the first time ever, and Anele is very good at that. Regardless of who you are, she brings you in. We're a team. Because she knows that unless we're all working together, it's not going to work. You can't have the digital producer unhappy or the call screener unhappy or the producer unhappy. Everybody's part of a team. Yeah. That's the only way it's going to work. And she's one of the only few people I know that have got that.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys in the industry you work with have ego. It's me. And then it's the team, and even the team then is the people on air and then those around can come and go. Yeah. But once you all gel together, it works phenomenally because also you don't know where the content's going to come from, right?
Often it's something that someone says and it
can be the random.
Right? Absolutely.
Exactly. It can
or
be like
a caller.
Exactly, right? So I think it's a hard one moving. That's why I don't believe I would gel. I get along with everybody. Yeah, I would. But I don't think I could do it. Yeah, it would be tricky.
And it ends abruptly. As someone who's been there, it ends abruptly. So I've always been someone who goes out on my own terms, whatever I've done. Right?
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've heard some horror stories.
Yeah.
Especially in broadcasting with people who are told the next day. Thanks.
Oh, no, I've seen that.
Access card denied.
I've seen that. But I think that's also, we've seen it. Yeah. And I've seen it. So then I'm very appreciative. I do know that every day is my last. I do know that could be my last. Yeah. I do know that, that show could have been my last one. Did I give it my all? Which actually today I should have maybe given it a bit more. Now that I think about it. I was feeling a bit flat. I was like, no, you guys run with this. I've got nothing funny to say today.
So what would you do when you're done? Like,
Great question.
Would it be a case of I'm going to focus on my kids? I'm going to explore podcasting, whatever it is, or what? I mean, have you thought that far?
I have. I think the problem I suffer with is that I don't believe in myself to do something else, right? Because I've only known radio and I've only known sports broadcasting.
Since 97,
Since
baby.
97. So I always go, okay, what to? And I'm a colleague of mine and a very good friend, Mandy Wiener, is one of those people who's always saying to me, what have you got? What is next?
She's done so well.
She's
shout
done
out to
so
Mandy.
well.
Huge fan.
And how lucky am I to have somebody like that to bounce stuff off, right?
Incredible.
So, interestingly enough, I do actually do counseling on the side, pro bono work. And I have counseled at high schools, and teenagers have always been my passion, and helping teenagers. So it would be something in that field. It would be the counseling route, coaching, that kind of thing. I hate saying it because I always feel like life coaching is like the natural norm for people in our industry, because you got to literally have a personality and like get people excited.
Be able to talk to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think because I did the counseling first, and for me it's more actually about counseling, the coaching should come naturally with that.
I think so. Absolutely.
And then, with all my wisdom and all my opinions, yes.
I mean, it's in abundance. Out of interest, what are teenagers telling you these days? Like, it's a scary age group as a father of a teenager.
It's so funny how many people are scared of teenagers.
There's that famous song, isn't there?
Yeah, right. So teenagers just want to be heard without somebody telling them what they should do. So most of them, you just sit there and they'll you got to probe them a little bit, but because you're not their parent, it's easier to get answers and stories out of them, right? And most of them actually, it's exactly the same stuff as we had growing up. They just want to have friends. They just want to be cool. They just want to feel connected. They just want to feel like they're extremely self-important little beings,
Absolutely.
Right? So everyone's looking at me. It's all about them at this moment.
And throw in social media.
And you throw in social media, and it's just become an absolute nightmare. They are... like that little, there's so many podcasts and stories about the endorphins that get released when somebody likes your post, And I've never seen, I don't know about you. I go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, that's a cute picture. I'll post it. They don't post because then it's there forever on your page. And you need to, it needs to be curated and look lovely. And what feel am I going for? And I'm like, I have like 23,000 followers. I should be caring as much as them. They share on their stories. And then they'll have a little spam account on the side for the stuff that they really want to post, but it's not aesthetic.
Oh, wow.
And then that's just the day-to-day kind of stuff. And I'm like,
this is another level.
This is unreal. But they're a lot like us. Okay, so... we so think, I was talking about with a friend the other day, we're so think about what are our kids seeing on TikTok? What are our kids seeing on Instagram? Hello, what were we seeing in the U magazine in the doctor's room when we were 9 years old paging through the magazine? There was teen pregnancy in there. Yeah. There were horror stories of whatever it was at the time, mass murder, people being crushed at stadiums. Our parents weren't in the doctor's room going, oh, don't read that. No. We were just paging there, or your mom left it on the kitchen counter. This one's sleeping with that one. You're 10 years old.
Exactly.
So the actual stories and the way we consume stuff has changed because there's no off switch for them, right? And as parents, you have to monitor that. There has to be an
on
off.
24/7.
They need 8 hours sleep a
Absolutely.
night. They have to. Their brains are still functioning. But it's the same stuff we had. Exactly what you went through as a teenager, they're going through as a teenager.
Yeah.
Just different
I'm just
means.
chuffed that I went to an all-boys school and there was no social media when I was growing up.
I'm just glad there was no social media. I'm not chuffed. I'm just like so relieved that none of us carried a camera.
But the additional pressure, just for having social media, looking cool, that it's amplified because people judge you on your social media.
Right. And then your hair has to look perfect. And you're so aware of how you look.
Yeah.
Like you and I were only ever aware of how we looked because we walked past a mirror. Right?
That's exactly it.
But a cell phone is like holding a mirror.
All the time.
Because they're always selfieing, snap, Snapchat. You're just looking at yourself. And then what happens? You're just going, oh, and then my favorite saying, and I always say this to them, you can be the ripest, juiciest peach, and there will always be somebody who doesn't like peaches.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well said.
And so you can always have somebody more beautiful than you,
definitely.
funnier than you, thinner than you, fatter than you, richer than you. There will always be somebody. You're not going to be the richest person in the world. You're not going to be the most beautiful person in the world. Also, you're not everybody's type.
That's true.
And that's what I always remind them. You're not for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
There's a lot of pressure on kids today.
And academic pressure.
Absolutely.
Right? They're now using grade 11 marks to apply for varsity. We were using matric marks. And then even then it was like your last matric mark. And then you just had to pass and you'd get in.
You'd be able to get in.
Now there's like, 50 spaces at this, university for that.
Man.
And I also have to play the violin, do charity work and ride a horse simultaneously, It's tough for them.
Yeah, you feel for them.
I do.
But it definitely helps to understand, where their heads are, right?
Yeah.
Because of the additional pressure.
So they often tell me like, just listen to me. And I'm like, okay. Because it's very hard for me not to like reflect the feeling, listen closely, give them a tool to move forward.
I've got to ask you, I saw you in New York recently.
Yes.
Ray and I have been there. What an incredible city.
When did you go?
I was there November last year.
Okay.
We were there for a UFC.
Okay.
And it was one of the most incredible trips that I've been on. And what a city. I don't think people understand until you've been to New York what type of energy it is.
It's so interesting. And so many people have said that to me, but I didn't feel it.
Okay.
It's weird. I think there are other cities around the world that have a bigger, better energy.
Sure.
And I don't know if maybe it's because I love historical buildings. I love old architecture. I love that feeling like a city's been around for decades. Whereas New York doesn't feel like that for me, which is strange.
Do you think we romanticize it maybe because it's
the Big Apple?
the Big Apple, it's in movies.
I posted on my Instagram, I posted a photo of me standing in the middle of Times Square. And everybody commented, what time did you take this? Because there's no one standing next to you. And I'm like, 11 in the morning, guys. That is Times Square. And then 11 at night on a Saturday is completely different, right? It's chaos.
Yeah.
It's chaos. But I think a lot has changed. New York, when I speak to people before and after COVID, the city itself has changed. It was unbelievable. I mean, you grow up your whole life watching stuff on TV about America, and then you go past the Statue of Liberty and you're like, oh my gosh, that is actually it.
Yeah.
Or you go past the Charging Bull, or you go past Wall Street. You're like, this is like how you see it in the movies is how it is,
exactly
right?
that, right? Yeah.
But I do feel like I've gone to cities that have far more energy.
Okay. What city ticks the boxes for you? I mean, I'm biased. Obviously, New York was great.
What is yours?
I thought Edinburgh was amazing.
Really? I haven't gone to Scotland.
Edinburgh was cobblestones.
Oh, I love a cobblestone.
A pub that's 500 years old. A castle with a cemetery for dogs.
Oh.
Ticked all the boxes for me.
That is so sweet.
Edinburgh is one of the best I've ever been to. Perth recently didn't have any character, but I felt incredibly safe there. So it had its different charm. And then you look at the river, Swan River and that, and it's okay. But you've been to some cool cities.
I've been to amazing cities. So I'll agree with you on Australia. I kind of like got to Australia. I went to Sydney and I went to Perth, and then I did a Contiki up the Barrier Reef, up the Gold Coast to the Barrier Reef and back down.
Beautiful.
And I kind of kept going, where's the energy? Like, where's the people, right? Maybe that comes from a nanny state where everybody's... But the Australians are crazy, because I also Contiki through Europe, and the people on our bus, the Australians on our bus were wild.
Because they're out of their country. They can do what they want now.
We're wild. I think traveling is absolutely amazing. I've seen some really, really, really beautiful cities. And how I know I've loved a place is like, I want to go back.
Yeah.
And I want to take my kids back to see it, right? When I got back from New York, I said to my kids, okay, you guys can go on your own budget. It's not like I have to. I think London for me,
Sure.
but the sun has to be shining, because I've seen London on two very different
Can be miserable.
budgets and two very different weather scales. And if the sun's shining and you're staying in a nice place, London
the
is
best place in the world.
London is phenomenal. Paris is so beautiful. I think it's one of those places like you can say, oh yeah, Paris is beautiful. You'll go there, you'll think it's beautiful. I've yet to find somebody who came back and went,
I've never been to Paris. My brother lives and works in Paris, and I've never been yet.
what?
Yeah.
No, you need to go.
Yeah, he's been there like 5 years. So
No,
I need to go.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
really bad.
I know.
Recently dipped into Spain,
Okay.
did Barcelona. That was really, really pretty as well. I love Italy. Italy's
Italy,
beautiful.
I believe, is
Rome.
insane.
Why do you keep saying I believe?
I haven't been to Rome. I haven't been to Italy yet.
Where have you been going?
Mainly the US for a lot. And then, yeah.
Okay, so where in the
UK.
US?
I've done Florida, Los Angeles. We've done, New York.
What was your best?
New York was the best. Florida's, Disney
Really?
and that is there and it's great fun and stuff. But
LA?
LA was very disappointing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Ray
did
and
you
I
go,
went
like-
there
Yeah.
and literally when SA was still flying to the US, we flew Joburg, New York. We had 4 hours in New York in 2018, I think it was. Quickly tried to see as much, went to the Apple store. Next thing, hopped on a 6-hour flight to LA, jet lagged out of our minds. And there was like something about LA that just didn't quite, like it felt like different. No energy. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and,
See, that's how I felt about New York.
but I did dip my toes in the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
Which was
How long
kinda-
were you in LA for?
We were there for a week.
And did you just stay like LA Central?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't go venture because apparently the coastline is spectacular.
Imagine it's beautiful. And the beaches are just like huge, just,
You need to plan your
sand.
trips better.
yeah, we were actually there
Like,
for
firstly,
work.
you need to go on more trips.
Yeah, more trips, less work trips.
And then you need to actually see the
Yeah.
places
That's
when you're there. Because that's what I've learned about
Italy
traveling.
next year, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I've learned about traveling. We can't just be spontaneous on the day and decide, oh, let's go look at this. You
No.
actually have to plan it. And then the beauty of social media is you can join like Facebook groups, what to see in New York. And that actually ticked a lot of boxes for us. Like I went to go see the Ghostbuster headquarters.
See, that's cool.
Like
That's
I
cool.
wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been on a Facebook group that said Ghostbuster headquarters. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And different, right? And then we went to like Seinfeld,
Okay.
where it says restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we went to go eat there. That
That's
was
the
actually
things
the
you-
most affordable and delicious food we had the whole trip.
The Rand doesn't go very far, does it?
No, it doesn't.
We've got a few minutes before we wrap up. Cindy, looking at your career, like what have been some of the highlights for you so far?
Oh.
Look, it's not done by any means, but there are moments that you think like I have to pinch myself
Yeah.
to can you just share that with us?
Sure. I think the highlights of my career would definitely have to be working for Supersport. I know that sounds crazy. I loved it. I really, really actually did enjoy my time at Supersport. And I think just being able to say I worked at Supersport, right?
Absolutely.
One of my dreams was to work at Sky Sports, but that never happened. But well done to Julia Stewart. Sure, she's got the gig, hey?
It's amazing.
I'm so proud of her. I think, working at Supersport was really, really phenomenal. And then every time I've had to travel to watch a sporting, and I say have to travel because people say, we would like to take you on this trip.
Yeah.
There's been a few. There was the 2015 Rugby World Cup at Twickenham. I went to the opening game. And then the next day, went to watch South Africa against Japan, where we lost by 1 point in 2015. I was there. The bus ride back to London from Brighton
Ray was also there.
Were you
actually.
there? Was long with lots of somebody had tequila on the bus. I was like, yes, okay. That was one. I was also there when Chris Froome won the Tour de France, and it was the 100th Tour de France.
Wow.
And I was on the Champs-Elysees for the last.
That's amazing.
For the last leg, somebody invited me to that. I think any time that you go watch a live sporting event is a highlight, like something big, like the box or the Proteas, etc. Those have been big highlights. I was saying the other day, I wish I'd written it all down because I'm sure I'm missing really, really big ones. And I've met some really amazing, huge celebrities along the way.
And people ask you, who's the most famous person you've interviewed?
Who is the most famous person? Like I can't.
There's quite a few, hey? I mean, if you think of the guests that have come into the shows over the years, like even if you haven't directly interviewed them, you've interacted.
Right.
They've been breathing the same air.
And what always like surprises me is they know you. Like they'll go, Cindy. And I'm like, you know me?
I'll
Like,
get back to you. Hold on.
yeah, like what? You just think that people just don't know
Yeah.
you. And I think I take for granted every day like I get to sit at the table after the show, we have breakfast with like 3 of the most amazing people
Yeah.
that people would kill to sit at that table every morning. But highlights have been, gosh, Sias, that's such a hard question. I wish you'd told me you
We'll
were
have to
gonna
get you on
ask
for
me
another
that.
episode,
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, what can I say? What can I say other than traveling to go watch?
Yeah, it's been amazing.
I went to watch the Bucks against the All Blacks in Wellington, and we drew the match.
That's pretty
At
cool.
16 all. And afterwards went into the Q&A, like in the press conference. I was like, Razzie, hi. Cindy Poluta here. So, great win, blah, 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 blah. The whole room packed out laughing because in my head we had won.
Yeah.
Because we scored the try in the last second of the game. That gave us a 16-all. And then Razzie was like laughing. And I was like, not a good start.
Yeah.
But little things like that I think we take for granted.
Sure. Lastly, what's your advice to people who ask you, how do I get into radio? Because I'm sure you get that a lot. I want to be like you, Cindy. How do I make a career out of radio?
Yeah.
Broadcasting.
So my first thing is always radio or sports. I can only speak for sports broadcasting because I feel I can't tell people how to get into the radio industry because mine was a happy accident.
Sure.
Right? Mine was a student job answering phones that then turned into an on-air career. But I think if somebody had to come to me and say, I'm really interested in sports broadcasting, which I did have recently, and I said to him, you have to know everything about everything. A lot of people don't know how to read a cricket scorecard. And I'm like, if you can't tell me what the Proteas are doing against Australia in the 43rd over, you're live on air, you're not going to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
If you can't tell me who's leading in golf, you're not, you got to be able to read a leaderboard.
What a birdie is.
Right. Right. Or an eagle or anything like that. Or you've got to be able to know. So my advice would be read up every day. Know what's happening in the world of sports. Write a mock bulletin every single day and then read it every single day. Because a lot of the progress comes from reading it every day. It's easy to write it every day.
Yeah.
But if you have to read it every day.
And hear your voice.
10,000 hours. And I can't hear my own voice. I won't watch this podcast afterwards. I know my friends will message me and be like, I saw you on Sias. I'm like, that's nice. Okay. We did this thing.
Funny enough, I'm the same.
We did this thing on Joburg Day. We got up and we sang Anele and the club. It was an impromptu, we'd been telling them, there's this big artist coming. And then we did this impromptu song. We sang Backstreet Boys. And I thought my mic was off. So I was like, tell me why.
Oh, wow.
Singing. My husband was watching up in the VIP section, like 500 meters, goes, your mic was not off. And I will not watch myself back. Everyone has like, look at the video. I was there. And I was like, that's an amazing
Ray,
video
can
for
we
you.
find that clip, please, and put it on the end of the show?
It was so bad. It was so bad.
Cindy, thanks so much for sharing your time.
I went so fast. Don't you have anything else to ask?
I do, but my airtime's about to run out here.
Oh, shame. We must buy you data, Sias.
But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Keep up the amazing work. I think you
Yeah.
inspire so many people each morning and you give them a reason to feel better about themselves and you make them laugh and keep it up. And, your sports bulletins are spot on, even though I can hear you've done your bulletin before the night before. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, keep up the great work. And I hope that you and the show continue to go from strength to strength.
Thanks, man. And maybe we'll have you stand in for me again.
What time is that?
You see, a lot easier on paper, hey?
No, look, I had fun. It was great fun.
Yeah.
So it was quite weird when you hit the mic and you have to speak. And I'm like, I've been doing this for like 15 years.
Why am I nervous?
Exactly.
Do you know why you're nervous? Because you still care.
Well, that's probably
Because it's your name on the bulletin.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a highlight for me.
Good.
But thanks for coming in.
Thank you for
Keep
having
up the
me.
great work, and I will send this to you so that you can watch this episode.
I was about to say, I hope this episode turns out lovely because I'm not watching it. I'm sorry I've spoken a whole lot of junk in the sound of my voice. No, thank you.
You've been wonderful. Thanks for
Thank
your time,
you.
Cindy. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. YouTube. We got you on iTunes as well as Spotify. A big shout out, of course, to Betway for our proud sponsors who power this show. Check out betway.co.za for more. Also, Monster Energy and New Era Caps. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.